allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Board norms. Debate, commentary, and discussion are healthy and open. Listening and speaking are equally important, and both should be done with respect and consideration. Focus is on students and our schools, not politics. Assume best intentions in all discussions. Can I get we don't have to approve the agenda. Additions and deletions.
We just have to approve the overall agenda.
Oh, wait. We don't have a motion to approve the agenda. We don't have a motion to approve the agenda anymore.
Right. We don't.
Why not?
We don't.
We should be.
That's part of the new policy
Because you
governance.
basically approved it when you developed the work plan, but you can ask if there's any additions, and then
or-
it's, yeah,
Deletions.
any changes expected.
I do have a question before we get to the consent agenda.
We're at the, go ahead.
Move to approve the agenda.
So we don't have a motion anymore to approve the agenda.
Because the work plan
Thought we were
takes
just
care
going to do that, no?
No.
Okay, because the work plan
All
takes
right,
care
so,
of that. Okay.
so who is writing these policies? That is my question.
The policies
Yeah.
that you see here are already established
By who?
Us.
by the board. Well, during
So
the-
there are no changes to these policies?
Are you talking about the new policies that
Yeah.
were, so
The
the ones that are in
policies
the...
that we're being asked to approve.
Oh,
Okay.
Those aren't policies that are in existence that have already been.
What section are we,
Well, I'm talking under the consent agenda, for example, the ownership linkage,
Oh, okay.
professional development.
So those are just referenced. So the policies that were written by the board over the last winter and spring, those were the policies, the agenda references the actual policies. So 4.3.2 is the policy that falls under.
Okay.
it just references what policy that pertains to.
Yeah.
The consent agenda is under policy 4.3.2. It's not like it's a new policy we're trying to adopt today.
Okay, but I do have a question under the ownership linkage too. I don't think that it's appropriate for us to tell people they only have 5 minutes to speak. I mean, if there's no one else here speaking, I think that someone who has a legitimate issue should be given more than 5 minutes to speak.
Should we wait, can we get to that part? Let me
Okay.
get through the consent agenda then. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
aye.
Thank you. Now we are on to the ownership linkage. Okay, so Karen,
I think that's what we've always done. And I remember because when we were during the negotiations last spring, not this past spring, but the spring before, I was in charge of holding people to the 2 minutes.
Well,
And let me just finish. And so it was difficult, but we've always had a 2-minute limit. And I think we really held it that night because there were so many people who wanted to speak. I think generally we don't always hold people to
okay,
that.
well, I
Right, you know
understand
what I'm
that
saying?
when
Like-
there, for example, that night, there
Yeah.
were numerous people who wanted to speak, and that's fine, but I think in the ordinary course of business, we should not tell people you only have 5 minutes to speak.
Oh, Herb has to say that.
Well, would the solution be where it says each person will be limited to 2 minutes, simply each person may be limited to 2 minutes, it depends on
Yeah, I think that's
exactly
a
what
better,
Karen's talking
better
about.
use.
Instead of will, just may.
Yeah.
questions on that?
Bless you.
Bless you. Which, I don't think there's any public comment. Is there?
No, nobody signed up, and Sophia and Peter are our public, so
Wonderful.
Sophia's here to report, I would imagine, so, yeah.
Okay. On to board professional development. We have Jeannie here with us to help us move along with the policy governance training. And I'm going to let Jeannie take it away.
Okay.
Okay, awesome. It's nice to be back with you guys. You just went through that first 20 minutes in 5. Congratulations. So I'm going to take everything you gave me. No, I'm just kidding. So my goal tonight, it's relatively short. You're not here with me for another 4 hours. This is about an hour or so. We're going to, because tonight you're getting your first official monitoring report on the succession plan policy, we're going to kind of make it a mini lesson on how to read a monitoring report. You have heard this before, just a brief refresher, and then actually walk through, even though that's on the agenda right after me, we're just going to build it into this. Is that all right? Okay. And then we had wanted to spend a little time on the board self-evaluation process. And I was asked today to maybe speak a little bit on student representation on a policy governance board, which is a topic I'm happy to speak on. But the fun is going to be digging into some practice scenarios and applying it and some real life situations that you may deal with and how it works there. Sound okay? I'm in the right room? Okay,
Yes.
good. Let me see who else is having a board meeting tonight that I can go to. Okay, so remember Caroline Oliver, who wrote the book that I think I just saw handed to you, yeah, says monitoring is where accountability begins. So in policy governance, you write the executive limitations and the ends policies, and you monitor those policies to see if the superintendent is being compliant in order to know if what you said you want happening in the school district is happening. So those explicitly written expectations are monitored on a regular basis. You, the board, decide how often you want to receive monitoring reports. It can be in the first year of doing this that you might not want one every single month, but I think you did plug into your annual work plan every single month. So you have scheduled in your work plan already, which is great, in collaboration with Pam, how often you're going to get the reports and when each one will come in. They don't necessarily come in order of numbering. It's really a matter of the cycle of the school year.
We did leave one empty in February, just in case there was a snow event during one of our board meetings and, or one went long, or we needed to follow up on something, so we left one blank.
Good. You do, so then, once you get in your pattern, you do review ends and executive limitations annually, but don't forget you also have to monitor your own governance policy and board management delegation policies. Again, you don't have to do it annually, but do it at least every other year, so that if you want to make some changes in how you're doing things, you're kind of up to speed and you know how you're doing, okay? So what's in a monitoring report? If you could pull out a copy of monitoring report 2.5, it has the blue and it has the grid and it says monitoring report. You can kind of follow along and just at a high level view see if these pieces are in here. So you should have the name of the policy being monitored. This one is 2.5, emergency superintendent succession. You should have an indication if it's new or it's changed interpretation. Since this is your first version of this, of course it's new. I mean, there's no need to, to state that. Next year, when it comes back to you, if she makes changes, she should note that it's been changed slightly. She may not need to on this policy to make changes. It's hard to say. You want to see if there's a section for the superintendent's interpretation? There is. She actually did write the language of the policy itself, which is good. You want to see if there's a rationale for her interpretation? There is. Then you want to see if that interpretation is defined or clarified through observable conditions. So not only did she interpret it, but she's telling you, if I were successful under my interpretation, this is what it looks like. So on the back page, the column that says observable conditions tells you what it would look like. On the right-hand column, she gives you evidence or data to support compliance or tell you there's non-compliance, whatever it is she needs to tell you, with that interpretation. And then ultimately, she signs off on whether there is or is not compliance or if there is partial compliance. So that's the pieces. Now, it used to be, and Herb, you might be familiar with some that kind of went on a little bit longer, but you had to go back and forth. So we're trying to set this up so you can read it as you go and not keep going back and forth. So we'll see if this works for you, but, okay. Any questions on any of that? Okay. Am I speaking loud enough? Because my ears are doing
Yes.
weird stuff. Okay, good,
Yeah.
thank you. Am I yelling?
No.
Okay, good. Mary Beth?
Do we have these?
Yes, actually you do.
Oh, I didn't, because then I saw your text that said
But
you
it's
only
here.
wanted 19 and 20.
Yes,
So
but
I-
it's here.
Oh,
No, I filled
so-
that as,
Oh, that's just for me. No.
I meant,
made
okay.
copies,
Oh, I
so
thought we
yes,
had 'em.
indeed.
So
but it's-
you were going to
Kind of a
have
dumb
it.
question. What I meant to say was, can we have them? I did look
Yes.
through my packet to see we didn't have them,
Yes.
so I've asked the wrong question.
Yes,
meant to
I was
say
still
thank you.
making
And-
changes as recently as
Got it.
5 o'clock, so
Okay,
I said,
great.
don't bother, I'll send it to you after.
Right, and that's what normally happens, so I was,
Yeah.
yeah, I think I should have
Yeah.
said, can we have this at some point?
Yes, absolutely.
I need to get back to work.
Okay. All right, so any reasonable interpretation, just a refresher? This is the superintendent's interpretation of your words. Reasonable interpretation is a zone, as you may recall, and how Pam interprets it might not be exactly the same the way that the next superintendent interprets it or the last superintendent interpreted it. Should be pretty close, though. What you're asking is not, do I agree with her interpretation? What you're asking is that reasonable? Like, does that make sense, given the words in front of her? Is that reasonable? If it's not what you wanted, but it's reasonable, then you stop as a board and say, maybe we need to look at the language of our policy, if that's how it was interpreted. But if it's not even close to what you wrote at all and way out in left field, then that's a conversation with the superintendent about, tell me how you came to that interpretation, and let's talk this through and see if you can come to the same page. Generally, that should only happen like the first time a superintendent goes through your policies. It shouldn't happen year after year, but it might just need to be, I mean, because a new superintendent might say, that's not how I read your words, and then you now have a fresh look at your own policy. But generally, it should be pretty reasonable, or if it's missing something, then speak up and say so. Okay? So sticking right there, looking at this monitoring report, given your policy, Pam interprets sudden loss of superintendent services to mean an unexpected lengthy absence by the superintendent. She interpreted executives to mean Rutland City Public School administrators with the appropriate credentials. She interpreted reasonable proficiency to mean individuals who have an understanding and application of the laws and policies governing the schools who can step in to assume some responsibilities. And she, identification to the board, she interpreted as actually giving you the names of those that she designated. Yes,
Is now an appropriate
yes,
time to ask a question about her
yes,
specific?
please do.
So I just have a question about lengthy absence. That just feels really vague to me. I don't know how everybody else feels about it. Do we feel like we need to have a minimum Yeah, because lengthy can be left up to anybody's interpretation.
I had that reaction at first, but then I remembered, wait a minute here, all this is the definition of sudden loss of superintendent services.
That's a good point, too.
Means that if my services are suddenly not available.
So isn't sudden loss also, or a longer-term loss is covered in your contract, right? There is an amount of time.
Not specified. Length of time.
It's not specified. Okay. For some reason, I thought there was, anyway, okay. I thought that in the contract, there was if I don't remember the exact length of time, but a certain length of time, at which point, might be a year, I don't know. I don't remember the specifics, but I know that there's some verbiage in your contract around you not being able, you get in a
If
car
you fulfill my
accident, something
duties.
something
Yeah, so
terrible,
kind of-
which will never happen, but if it did, or hopefully never happens, but if it did, that things that we have to do contractually, like we're obligated to do.
I think it's if I'm no longer able to fulfill the responsibilities of the superintendency.
And I think that can have a different meaning as well.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that means you're derelict in your duties, or you just decided you don't like it here and you're going to change everything.
Keep in mind, this is a very, very interim policy. I mean, here's my example, should Pam win the lottery and decide to move to Bora Bora, and, it's Friday afternoon and she's leaving on Saturday and she's not telling you, okay? Sudden loss of superintendent services. This is just, somebody stepping in until you, the board, take the actions that you need to take to replace her. Because she's not designating her replacement, only you can.
And every circumstance could be different, so.
Right. And she may choose to do this because she decided to do a 1-week vacation. She may, just simply because she knows she's going to be out of the office. She may go to a conference and designate those people to step in while she's at the conference. Any length of time, she can do this anyway, but you want to be assured that if it is going to be substantial and could affect the district, that somebody is stepping in until you exercise your employer rights to do whatever.
And I think as a board, I guess, if we felt that it was being lengthy, we could have the discussion about it. It doesn't stop us from talking about it.
That's
I
true.
just want to make sure.
That's right.
Yeah, so are you comfortable?
Oh, I am. I just wanted to get other people's opinions too and see how other
That-
people were feeling about it.
It was a good point, yeah, for sure. Yep.
Okay? So the question that Charlene then asks is this a reasonable interpretation of our policy? Let her know. Thumbs up, thumbs down.
I think it's in.
You want more discussion on it?
I'm going to ask the question.
You are.
Okay. Do we feel this is a reasonable interpretation of the
2.5?
2.5 monitoring, 2.5 emergency superintendent succession? And I guess it's not a motion, I'm just asking the question.
You're just asking. It's kind of a consensus thing.
Okay, and with consensus,
Then you move on to the next, I'll
we
take
just
you to
need
the next part.
consensus.
You just need that.
Just a clarification, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Gene, if somebody felt that it was an unreasonable interpretation, then that might lead to a motion to actually add some policy that would address whatever was not properly defined.
Right, and that kind of just played out here, because you appropriately said, I'm not sure if lengthy is enough of a reasonable interpretation. If you had agreed and said, we can't accept lengthy, we really want it to be specific, you might look at your own language, because it isn't specific right now, and you might say 2 weeks or more, or whatever you wanted to define it as. Exactly, just like you just described. That would be the
So as far as
steps.
protocol goes, so I can, just rewind like back to the very beginning, of starting the conversation. So this comes up, monitoring comes up.
Yeah.
And what am I doing from the get-go? Like, so it comes up, we're at that section now,
Yeah,
and I'm presenting monitoring. Is Pam going to discuss these things with?
not the way I am.
No,
That would
okay.
take too much of your meeting time.
Yeah.
So this report would have gone out to you in advance. It
They've all
probably did
read
tonight.
it. Got it.
The assumption is that when you come to the meeting, you have read it, and if you have questions, you're ready to ask questions.
Okay.
So it comes up on your agenda, which is right after me, and you say it's time for the monitoring report 2.5. So probably the first question is, has everyone read the report?
And hopefully they have.
Mm-hmm.
And then?
And then, are there any questions about reasonable interpretation? Does everyone accept this as a reasonable interpretation? And you kind of get nods. You can, if it's contentious and you'd like to do a roll call vote, you always can do that, but you don't really have to here. You just want consensus.
Okay.
Mary Beth?
I think I'm going to go where Herb's going. So let's say we kind of have a consensus that this is not reasonable, which is not what I'm saying.
Sure.
I know.
You know, it's not on the agenda to discuss this policy tonight, so we would then make a motion to add it to another agenda, or how do we then get
I
it?
think in the
get it
moment,
taken
you
care of,
want
yeah.
at least enough of a discussion. So let's say somebody says, I really don't think this, I'm going to take the lengthy, just as an example, because it was real. I just don't think lengthy is enough. I think that we really need more, okay? I think you can take just a few minutes. Do other people agree? You just did. Do other people agree? Let's say that a few other people agree with you. What do we think is an appropriate term? Okay, then you would ask, I'm being Charlene now, you would ask, would you like this to come back with 2 weeks written into the policy? Would you like us to revisit the policy and write that time frame right into the policy? And then maybe somebody could make a motion to do that. Herb says, I move to write somewhere in the policy, I can't do it right now, sudden loss of superintendent services for 2 weeks or more.
Yeah.
I move that we change the policy to that. Let's bring it back next month for first reading, second reading. That doesn't change her report. She writes the report on the language that you have. And actually, the question about lengthy was not about, is that a reasonable interpretation, as it turns out. It was more about, should we have clarified what it is? Or, an unreasonable interpretation might be if Pam said, I don't know what you'd say in this one, it's so straightforward. If Pam said, I interpret the sudden loss of superintendent services to mean that I was in a car accident. And that's so specific. It's like, well, what if you win the lottery? I mean, it's just too specific. It's not, do you see what I mean? That's not reasonable enough, because maybe your husband's in a car accident and that's why you're out, and you're fine. I mean, but that's not what you said.
Herb?
Yeah.
I think Jean made an important point that if a number of us felt that something needed further definition, we wouldn't even be doing a first reading of a new policy at that meeting. We'd be setting it for the next agenda.
That's correct. That's correct. So you would agree we're going to change the language and bring it back for first reading. And the point I want to make now is what she wrote, though, was on the existing policy. So you can't find this policy out of compliance if her definition is reasonable just because you're about to change the language. She had to work with what she had.
Yep.
And the next time she does this report, she would change it to your new language and adjust it. That's why we're walking through this, so that you can ask all these questions.
Interpreted it correctly, we just feel as a
Reasonably.
board, reasonably, did I say correctly? Yeah, reasonably. But we as a board
Might.
felt that it might have been
Wanted something else.
too vague or something.
But it made us think, like, oh, maybe we need to,
Exactly.
yeah.
What if I were agreeing with them and said, yeah, you're right, I should be more specific about that?
They still should change the language, because the next you won't know that.
Okay. All right.
You know, someday when you do win that lottery, the
Now-
next Pam Reed won't know that.
Now I'm confused, because you're saying we can't, if we wanted to make a change, to make it more specific.
Yes,
We can't do that at the next meeting?
yes, you
Can
can.
do it.
Oh, I thought you were saying we couldn't do it until she submitted this policy again.
No, I'm sorry, so let me, I said the opposite. So
Okay.
if you want to make a change, and the board agrees that you want to make a change, and you want it to be more specific, then somebody would make a motion to bring the policy back for first reading with the language you agreed upon
At the next meeting?
at the next meeting, and you go through that process.
Okay.
What I said that might have confused you is that doesn't change the report you got tonight,
Okay.
because that language didn't exist when she wrote the report for tonight. It would change the next time she gives this report, when the policy language is changed. So in other words, like, you
So
can't
at the
do a-
next meeting?
She wouldn't have to give it until your next, unless, it's unlikely you'd have her give it until next year.
But then we wouldn't be changing it.
You're
To a-
changing the policy, you're not changing her report.
But you could tell me you wanted me to change, you could tell me that you wanted an updated monitoring report.
Right,
Now that we changed
and as soon as you
can
pass
So I guess
that,
we have to do that if we want it.
tell me. You can tell me.
as soon as
Policy
you,
would still be updated, and
Yes.
she would still have to follow the new policy,
that's what I'm trying to
correct?
say.
Moving forward, yeah.
So
But
even
it
if,
just
even if the
seems-
report would not really matter, because the policy would still be
Seems very
updated.
confusing, though, to not be able to correct it and,
Well, she doesn't need to correct it because,
well, not, I shouldn't say correct it, but that we can't, so technically, she wouldn't be responsible till next year to do it.
she wouldn't be responsible to report until next year, but the second you pass that new policy, she is bound by it.
Okay.
And then she has a year to live by it, and she reports to you that I was only out for 1 week and 6 days, so I didn't do it.
Herb has a
But
question.
as I think somebody said, if we changed the policy, we made it more definite, we could at that point ask Pam to redo the report.
You could. And this one, it's not that big a
So
deal,
we
but
wouldn't have to
another
wait a
policy
year.
might be.
So, to clarify again, so when a policy comes, or a monitoring report comes up, and we ask about any additions, thoughts on the reasonableness of Pam's interpretation.
Yeah, I wouldn't ask it that way. I would actually, did you put it on your agenda?
No, I think you said, is this a reasonable interpretation?
Yeah,
was the
I would
question.
actually recommend putting the two questions right on your agenda. It helps the board prepare. No, you would simply ask, do you agree this is a reasonable interpretation of this policy?
Okay.
And that might lead to a short discussion, but you're correct, you don't move into the full first reading and, you don't do that. It might be that your discussion says, we need to look at this policy language, and what comes out of that is you designate 2 board members to bring back a revised version based on your discussion. But you don't have to do the work right then at that moment.
But then, when you say a consensus, we're not saying we need just a majority of the people decide,
Yes.
no, we're fine with this. That's good enough.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Um, in-
Yeah, go ahead.
In terms of monitoring reports, we can ask for a given monitoring report at any time during the year?
Yes, you can.
On any policy that we want to?
Yes, you can.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm.
So you have a work plan that has already laid out when you're going to receive monitoring reports on your executive limitations and ins. But should something come up during the year, or if you change a policy and want to give her a couple months to apply it and then do another one, you can request, the board determines when and how a monitoring report is done. You can change your work plan, in other words.
This may be getting into what you want to say about student representatives, but I think student representatives should also be encouraged to take part in that kind of a discussion. I know in Taconic and Green, occasionally, it was a student representative who said, wait a minute, you guys aren't following your own policy.
That would be lovely.
Don't feel that weight.
Yeah, you're right. And we're going to talk about student representatives, and you have some decisions to make there, but, okay. So where we are now in the process is generally you've come to consensus, which is kind of an informal majority, or you can make it a formal vote if you feel you need to, that her interpretation is reasonable. Good job.
Thanks.
You don't really vote on the rationale, but you read it with the interpretation. I mean, she lets you know where it came from. Oh, good. Karen?
Well, no, I was just going to say, I think for clarification, and should there be a question that comes up later about this, I think we should take a vote on it and
Sure.
let that stand. I mean,
It might be a good idea. So you
to me,
could,
it's cleaner.
yeah, and then, yeah, I agree. I think it's a good idea. You don't have to, but I think it's a good idea. So,
So you do want a motion?
is
or-
there a motion that this is a reasonable interpretation is
moved.
fine?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion?
Just a caution that that doesn't necessarily mean it's the only interpretation. If we have a new superintendent in 5 years, that doesn't limit that superintendent from saying, here's a different reasonable interpretation.
That's right.
Good point.
So, what are we agreeing on then by having this motion?
That
We're
as a
saying that as of
board,
today,
you're as of today, in this
Today.
report, and this policy,
this
and
board,
the superintendent's report, this board accepts this as a reasonable interpretation of your policy.
Might it be simpler and a little less misleading if we simply said, we accept the report?
You're going to get there, don't get ahead of me.
Okay.
Okay. Right now, we're just doing one question. Thank you. You're right. Okay? Did you vote? Did you put that question?
Motion's on the
Doris?
table, but we haven't voted.
all in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Now I can say nice job, Pam. Okay. So then the second question, which again helps if it's right on the agenda or in the superintendent's report. But the second question is, on the back side, do you feel that the data or evidence that is provided that lines up with your observable conditions, do you feel that that is appropriate, adequate? Do you accept that data and evidence?
So Jean, if they were doing a motion, if they're doing a motion in this section 2, then it would be a motion to accept the observable condition and data
Yes,
as presented.
yes.
Okay.
So we need a clarification motion. Yes?
No?
Hers hand was up mine.
That's why I suggested that the only motion really should be a motion to accept the report. I think we're getting into unnecessary detail here, because let's say I disagree with some of the evidence. Then if there's a motion to accept the report, I'm going to vote against the motion. I'm going to explain why.
Yeah.
Typically, at least in my experience, the reports are almost always accepted. You don't have to have stage by stage to say, okay, do we accept the interpretation? Do we accept the rationale? Do we accept the evidence?
And the policy.
So Herb, are
We already did the policy.
you suggesting that only one question is asked? Do we accept this
Yeah,
report?
I am.
So the reason I do the step-by-step, and like I said earlier, you don't have to vote. I mean, you can. You don't have to vote on the step-by-step. But in my experience, A, it reminds you of what it is that you're supposed to be evaluating this on. That direct question of, is this interpretation reasonable? Is this evidence adequate? And otherwise, if you just go straight to the final question, do you accept the report as written? Your discussion might generate why somebody says no, but that's when you might get into the, well, I didn't like the interpretation, it's not what I would have done kind of thing. So it's kind of almost like a reminder process. Is the interpretation reasonable? Is the evidence adequate? And then the question that really does need a vote, as opposed to those two little ones, is, do we accept the report?
So,
Sorry, Beth is trying really hard.
no, I'm also a teacher, so I was trying not to be that like student who's like, I'm like, I know you see me.
She's done
Okay.
a really nice job, though. She just stuck to her hand.
So the idea that we have discussion and consensus, or discussion on those two questions, I think, is something we all maybe can agree on. I think the question is, do we need 3 motions?
Yeah.
No.
Right. So we may, right, Herb? So I think I'm with you, and maybe that just, the 3 motions might seem cumbersome, but it's like, hey, yes, we all seem like, oh, brought up a good point, but, and we talked it through, and great, we can move on without a motion, and then we go to reasonable evidence, and we can, so it may be two questions in one motion is what
Yeah.
you might normally do.
Can I
Whatever you
ask,
look at.
do we agree with the interpretation
Yes.
as just a conversation?
I'm
then-
just going to rephrase
Okay, I'm
that
sorry, I
again.
keep saying it wrong.
No, I think it's important. Do we agree this is a reasonable interpretation? There's a different meaning to, do we agree with the interpretation? We might
Okay.
not agree with it, but is it reasonable?
Okay, do we agree that
That this is a reasonable
Reasonable
interpretation?
interpretation.
Yep,
we can have discussion, and then maybe after
Move
that,
on.
move to accept the report?
nope. So 2 questions first.
You
Do we
still wanna do
agree?
the evidence.
And put them right on the agenda. Do we agree this is a reasonable interpretation? And do we agree that there is adequate evidence to show compliance?
Okay.
And then the final question, which is the official one, do we accept this report? And that's the motion.
Well, there's nothing wrong with making the motion first, as long as we do after that what Charlene's talking about, right?
Right.
Maybe part of discussion, yeah.
Yeah.
But those are the discussion points. And so before you accept the report, you really want to make sure that people are comfortable with the reasonableness of the interpretation and the adequacy of the evidence. Whether you do it after a motion to accept or you do it before a motion to accept, doesn't matter. Okay, good right now?
Yep.
All right, so let's talk about non-compliance, because it can happen. There are reasons why a superintendent might be out of compliance. If it's not egregious, meaning she's not pilfering all your funds or, and reporting to you that she was moving things around and something egregious. It's probably possibly there's an unforeseeable catastrophe that occurred, such as Federal Agency of Education just notified you don't get your Title I funds and you're now out of compliance with your budgeting. She has to spend money you don't have to keep the district going. That's a non-compliance with your policy, but not really her fault. But she still is required, because you have a policy telling her, to let you know that she's not in compliance. COVID was another time. I know it's behind us now, but there are a few policies we couldn't be in compliance with when we didn't have students in school. So,
This perhaps could be in there. Is there a certain span of time in which, if she understands that she's out of compliance, that
Yes.
she has to report to us?
let me talk about the compliance reasons, and then I'll tell you what happens next. You guys are really smart. You're so
Thank
far
you.
ahead. So another reason might be that the policy is new and is going to require significant time to come into compliance. I could guarantee you that Pam is not in compliance with your ends policy tonight. She hasn't even seen kids since you wrote it. You know, that's going to take some time, because now you have a North Star that she's going to be working towards. That's going to take some time to come into compliance on, because she is building the system for it. So it could be that you have a new policy that's going to take some time. Okay? Sorry, Pam, maybe you were in compliance, I don't know. It could be that, and I told you in the training this happened to me, superintendent is new, and in filling out a monitoring report, found out that there weren't systems in place that now need to be put in place. So I discovered that in my district, we didn't have a solid system to secure student records. So I reported it in my monitoring report that that particular section of that particular policy was out of compliance, and I'll get to what happens next in a minute. Or the superintendent has found compliance with this policy might create non-compliance with another policy, because you have policies in conflict. Back to that loss of federal funds, or back to that time of loss of federal funds when the agency of, or the Secretary of Vermont Education wanted superintendents to sign a policy saying that you don't have any diversity, or sign a statement saying you don't have any diversity policies. If she were to sign that, she would be out of compliance with your equity policies. If she didn't sign that, then she's out of compliance with the policy where you're telling her that she has to follow all state rules and regulations. So that would be a reason to be out of compliance, but she reports it to you. It's possible as well that the superintendent doesn't know how to come into compliance, or is just simply incompetent. That's the more egregious stuff, or you're going to see it happening over and over and over. It's like, okay, you told us you weren't. We're giving you a chance to come into compliance, and they've done nothing in that 3 months or whatever timeline. Or it's possible a superintendent might be deliberately ignoring your policies. Those last two, you really pick up on the next step. What if there's no compliance? What if she's out of compliance with the policy? If she's out of compliance with one section of the policy, this is a short one, but you might remember, like, some of them have 8 or 9 subsections. So if it's just one, she would write next to that observable condition piece out of compliance, and she would report partial compliance at the end of her report. And then she would tell you why she's out of compliance and how long you can expect for her to come back into compliance. It's going to take me 3 years. It's going to take, don't accept 3 years. It's going to take me 3 months to set up a system to have all of our student records secure, because Christmas is happening and I lose a month that way. So I need 3 months. You agree, 3 months seems reasonable. You put it on your annual calendar that she's bringing back a compliance report at the end of that 3 months to demonstrate she is in compliance. Does that answer your question, Jen?
Well, I think my question was like, how soon does she, so would she have to report it to us at the next board meeting? Would she have to?
She has to report, she's going to tell you, if she's out of compliance with any section, she's at that time going to tell you, I need this much time to get into compliance. If in your discussion with her, you feel that amount of time is reasonable, okay, So you put it on that board agenda.
Okay, I guess that's not what I was I was not asking like when it came to time to report. I'm talking about like if she just finds out she's out of compliance with something completely separate, does she have to report it prior to when we are supposed to get our report
Yes.
on it?
Excellent question.
And if so, how soon after she realizes she's out of compliance does she need to report to us, and how?
Most likely, your next board meeting, if she becomes aware that the district is out of compliance on a policy. She does not wait for where it falls into the monitoring schedule. She just reports out to you that we're out of compliance. And this is what we're doing to repair it. Karen?
So, who's monitoring all of this?
Well, Pam writes it and you're monitoring it.
I'm sorry, who writes?
Pam writes it
Right.
and
But-
you, the board, are monitoring it.
Okay, but who on the board, I mean, I understand any board member can bring it up and say, hey, we were supposed to have this and we don't. But is there a specific person, the clerk or the chair, that is actually monitoring and noting that on this date, we're supposed to have this?
Yes.
Yeah, it's in the work plan. It's in the work plan.
It's all written up.
In your packet, there's a,
Another part of the answer to your question, I think, Karen, is if you look at policy 3.4.2, that describes the three different ways that we could choose to monitor what's going on.
yeah, we didn't make a copy of all the, like Karen doesn't have a copy.
Okay.
Oh, it's page 9 of the policies.
Right.
But the practical way it plays out, Karen, is you do have an annual work plan. It's in your packet. And it tells you what you're going to cover in each meeting, and there's a column for monitoring. So let's say she has to bring it back next month. Well, next month you have 2.1 on here, not this one, not 2.5. But Charlene or the clerk would write in, add 2.5 as well. So you would modify. So this is where you're tracking your changes to your agenda.
Okay.
So there's a practical way to make that happen. Any other questions on non-compliance? Okay. So, I forget, did you ask the question, is the evidence adequate
Okay, so
to show
can we go
compliance?
back to the first question that I can't seem to get
Absolutely.
right? Okay. This is what I've got. Do you agree this is a reasonable interpretation?
Nice job, Charlene.
Yep, got that. Okay, next one is, do we agree the evidence is adequate for compliance? Okay, and then the third one, I think, is,
Is there a motion
this is the
to accept?
motion. Do we have a motion to accept the report?
So moved.
Second.
Oh, we were doing it.
If we redoing
All in
it?
favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Report is accepted.
And you just did your next agenda item before I'm even done.
Really?
Yeah, just freed up some time for you. It made sense to me that rather than just prepare you for the monitoring report, to actually walk through it. It's a great questions, great discussions. So,
Okay.
and I agree. I accept the report too. Okay.
So again, if it comes up for discussion and there is not agreement 100%, we're looking for a majority of people.
Yes.
So it's possible we'd have to have whatever, a straw poll
Yes.
or a,
Nods or
Whatever you call
yeah.
that thing. Yes, it's important because I have worked with boards who maybe went around and said, yes, they agree the interpretation is reasonable. Yes, they agree the evidence is adequate to show compliance. No, they don't accept the report. You know, why? I mean, those are the two things that you rated the report on. And at the same time, you're evaluating your own language in the report. Is this really what I wanted it to say?
But I think it's good in that we'll have good conversation because we are going to have this ahead of time. So we'll all know that we're going to talk about this before the
Yes.
meeting.
And by putting the questions right on the agenda, that's a reminder in your face again, how am I evaluating this report? Yeah. Right, Beth?
Yes, please.
I think that this brings us to a little bit broader question, or not question, but statement, I think that's important for us all to understand as we move into policy governance, that not just the monitoring report, but there's going to be a number of things in the packet going forward that we really do have to read ahead of time. I am terrible at it, and Charlene and I spoke earlier, and I was like, I made sure I went in and did my job and read stuff. Because I don't always, I'll admit, right? I don't. And that's going to be, Herb, you're laughing. I'm glad. So, it'll be important for us to make sure we do our homework, so that we get more used to that going forward.
I also think, though, as far as policy governance is concerned, for us to be efficient here at our meetings, we are sticking to the agenda. So if the topic is not on the agenda, it's not for discussion, it's going to, Also, we have, for your help, we have got these questions to ask yourselves to make sure that we stay on track.
That was wonderful.
So if you're asking yourself these questions and you're finding out that the question you're going to ask is pertaining to operations, then we know that that's not a question that we're going to entertain.
And if I can support that for a second, the reason you want to do that, it's not about getting out early. That's not what it's about. It's about that the board is doing the work at the level of governance, such as the big picture stuff. Did you hear about Act 173, by the way? Okay, there's big picture stuff that you have to talk about. So you don't want to get bogged down in what you hired somebody to do, but sometimes you're asked to approve things because the state wants you to. So that's the point about efficiency, so that you can really talk about how your students are doing and what's affecting the district regionally or statewide or anything. Sorry, Karen.
Well, I mean, I've said before that I totally disagree with this policy governance. I feel like the board is being restricted, being limited. If I have an issue that comes up, why can't I bring it up under old business or new business, depending? I mean, those are things that are on the agenda that we're supposed to be able to bring up things at a
We
meeting.
don't have those items on this agenda anymore yet. New business is not something, old business and new business are not topics that are on the agenda anymore.
And you can bring things up by submitting them to your chair beforehand.
Well,
who
I
will then
don't,
go
I
through
don't
the
always
test.
know if something is going to come up until I get my packet.
I
which
see. So
I
raise
don't.
questions, email either Charlene or Pam about what's in your packet. If it is something that's totally new, like some community issue, the board is not, if you bring it up in the meeting, the board is not prepared to discuss it, and the community is not prepared to have you discuss it. But you could say, at the end of this meeting, I'd like us to talk about XYZ next meeting, and then according to your policy, Charlene, the superintendent, and the clerk have to run it through the questions. I think it's a change at first. It is.
Well, as I said, I totally disagree with this, and I feel like the board is being really kicked out of any direction that we had previously, that we were doing the policies ourselves, having committees, being, for example, now, which I was going to bring up, which is not on the agenda, is the fact that we previously were assigned as a liaison with the different schools. Nothing has come out about that. I don't know if we don't do that anymore or where we are with that.
So an email went out a while ago giving out the liaisons to the schools. I can have Kayla resend that out.
Okay.
Kathy?
The new policies, is it appropriate to post them on our website?
Absolutely.
So I don't think they're on there now.
The numbering, go ahead.
I just sent an email to get the policy governance policies on now. Because of the renumbering of the other policies, we waited until all the renumbering is completed before we post those, but the policy governance ones should be there, so we will get on that ASAP.
Okay.
Mary
Thank
Beth
you.
asked about it.
It's a really good question too, Kathy, because the second part of that question is, should the monitoring reports be posted then? And they are public.
Okay,
So I
they
also
should-
recommend that you have a section for your monitoring reports.
What about our work plan? Is that on the website? Do we know?
No reason why not.
Yeah, right, I think it should be.
I think it would be helpful for me to
Yeah.
have it on.
Yeah, because you might
Especially
have
since
a
it's
topic,
changing, and if things
Yeah.
are added, or then you could look at it anytime,
or you might have a topic that is already on the agenda and you just need to know, when is it on? Mhm. I mean, that's your work plan
Yep.
that's guiding the work you're doing. As you are doing these policies, each time you review a monitoring report, it's like a mini evaluation of the superintendent. They add up throughout the year. These are the expectations you laid out in writing for your superintendent. So therefore, this is what you're evaluating her on. As opposed to, after the year's over, you tell her if she did a good job or not, but you didn't tell her how to do a good job. Under this model, you're telling her up front, what do you expect? And then you have her provide evidence and you accept it or not accept it or whatever you're gonna do. I recommend creating a chart like what's up on the screen there that has the monitoring report, has the date, whether or not it's in compliance, and any notes about it. Like the third one down, you can see that there's a partial compliance. And on the right-hand note, it talks about non-compliance, and then when it came into compliance or when it's scheduled to come back, or back to Karen's question of who's monitoring. It's another place where, when's it scheduled to come back?
So it's kind of just taking the monitoring, which is why the work that Jen and Stephanie did was so important.
Yes.
Got all that down for the whole entire year.
Yes.
And so we're extracting that monitoring piece out, and you're saying putting it on a separate kind
Yep.
of, in watching that.
Then you have a one-page running document.
Right.
And it also helps you know, if you did it by year, for example, you'd know how long ago you might have monitored before if you get lax about monitoring. So
I started to, I set this up as a structure. Where does it live?
it can live on the web too. If you had a monitoring report section, then it could be right there.
Okay.
Or on your board website, you might post your annual work plan, and underneath it, your annual performance review, or call it whatever you'd like, superintendent monitoring reports. Some boards, I'm going to include Bianca in this conversation, some boards put the monitoring report directly under the policy. So you have a policy and then a sub-bullet, latest monitoring report, or even 2 or 3, Other boards have a separate link to the monitoring reports. You can do it either way you want. That's a matter of preference. But all of this should be public, because your community should know what you're expecting of your superintendent and see how she's doing too. And it's not, it doesn't need to be the confidential, we've done a survey and 50% of the people said they like that she wears green on Tuesdays, but 25% don't like that she wears green on Tuesdays. I mean, it's not that kind of a, sorry to be a little sarcastic there, but.
I think it's probably better on the web to have the policies in one place and the monitoring reports in another
agree.
one. Maybe preceded by the policy, but.
Well, the
somebody
policy's
who's-
written in the report, so that's
Right,
helpful.
'cause somebody who's not familiar with the whole thing could misread the monitoring reports as somehow being policy.
Sure. Totally your choice. Okay, and then at the end of the year, this is what you're going to use to finalize your evaluation. Can I talk about that just for a second? Because the new district quality standards would accept just this as an evaluation. But if you want to go up a level to excellent as a board, then they recommend that you actually identify 3 mutually agreeable goals. I don't know if the number 3 is in there. They recommend that you identify mutually agreeable goals with the superintendent, and so you'd also have to build that into your
We worked
evaluation.
with
Yeah,
Pam on.
so you're going
her
for
goals.
excellence, yeah. So this plus those goals will constitute your evaluation.
And did we decide on if there is an update or a shift on the work plan? Or who is monitoring the work plan or updating it?
So I went through, working with Jean this summer and added I didn't add any of the substance to or change any of the substance to it. I added the policies next to it so that everything is, really referencing and I sent it to Jen and Stephanie. And then I was going to put it on the agenda for our next meeting for you to reapprove it.
Okay, what I'm wondering though, is that a board-maintained work plan or a school?
It's kind of your board administrative support maintained work plan. So how do things get on your agendas already now that you want to bring up next month? It's a combination of your board secretary and probably your admin assistant reading those notes and catching it, Pam writing down a note, this needs to go on in September, you writing down a note. Anyway, most often it comes back to the board admin assistant who does the physical preparation of the packet. If you carry this with you, the work plan, to every meeting, and you just made a note, we're going to add that policy here, then Pam carries it back to the admin assistant who prepares the packet.
Okay.
And that's kind of how you do it.
I wasn't sure if we needed to delegate somebody in this group.
Not
to
really,
make
and then when you're building the agenda, go ahead, Pam. You might have a
When the
better
board
answer.
makes a little change to the work plan and says, okay, we want to do it, does the board have to then re-vote on the work plan?
I don't think it's a re-vote if it's by consensus. I mean, if everyone says, yes, that's coming back, I don't think you have to take action on that.
Okay, great.
And ultimately, the chair, you authorize the chair to ultimately make the decisions around the agenda anyway.
I think maybe we discussed this back when we were adopting the policies. If you look under policy 4.3.1, it says the annual work plan will be presented at the meeting of the board prior to the start of the new school year. I think we weren't quite sure whether that was the right time, but we weren't, we couldn't think of a better time, so
Which
we
would be
left it that
tonight.
way.
Yeah. In the future would probably be your August meeting.
And so you do have in your
It's here,
packet, I did
actually.
put it in your packet.
Yeah.
So was that a question? Yeah. were
No,
you-
just a comment.
Okay. Will we have time to talk about self-evaluation?
Yeah. I'm
I just wanna-
headed there
That's
next.
super important for me.
Yes. So let's go into self-evaluation. See? Also in your packet, you have a one-page document that says PG Board Self-Evaluation. It says PG Board because it's one that policy governance boards use. District quality standards, by the way, now also requires that boards monitor themselves. And this is, filling this out will be your evidence that you have done it. So boards that don't have a formal process like this will find it more difficult to do. But you're ahead of the game. So I created this document, and these are my recommended questions on where you begin. But they might not work for you. Or over time, as you evolve and get better at this, they might not work for you. But as you're just starting off, these are the questions I recommended. Were all board members prepared and participating? Did the board follow the board agenda and remain in the role of governance instead of operations? Did the board refer to any policies tonight? Herb has at least twice. Did the board focus its work toward the future of the district and achieving its ends? Did the board identify any opportunities to link to its owners? And did any future training topics come up as a need or desire of the board? Now, if the answer to 4, 5, or 6 is no, that's not wrong. I mean, maybe your meeting agenda wasn't conducive. You just met to approve a bid, and it was a special meeting, and that was the only agenda item. Maybe you didn't need to do these, and that's okay, but it makes you think about, particularly the first 3. Did we follow the agenda? Did we remain in the role of governance? And kind of, did we actually use our policies if we got stuck and weren't sure what to do? You can, and the way you would do this is, I would Charlene could designate somebody to kind of pay attention during the meeting to this. Can be the same person all the time, or you could rotate the responsibility. And then at the end of the meeting, that person kind of walks through the questions. Everyone gives input, but that person was really paying attention.
Did we officially put Herb in that role?
I think we did.
we did.
I think we had a motion, and it
Was I
was
there?
seconded, yes, yeah. Karen?
I just have a question on number 1.
Yeah.
It feels to me that that is a board member critiquing another board member, and I don't think it's appropriate. I mean, we're all elected. Some people don't necessarily vocalize everything. Doesn't mean they're not paying attention, they're not participating in their own way, but not everybody likes to speak publicly. So I just find that offensive and could see where that could lead to more animosity between board members because I'm monitoring what Kathy is doing, and, I don't think Kathy was prepared tonight. I mean, that, to me is just not appropriate.
Any thoughts?
What about engaged instead of participating? I think Karen's got a point.
Yeah?
I like engaged better, I mean,
Versus
This is your
participate,
document, so, yeah.
where board members prepared and engaged
Yeah.
in the meeting.
We're just engaged.
And once in a while, life happens,
Well, you could be
and you might
engaged but
come
not
not
prepared.
prepared, but you're still engaged, you know?
right.
But
Just-
if you have a board member who
So-
never comes prepared, that becomes obvious.
Right. I think what this is also trying to achieve is we have this information in the packet, and if you come to the board trying, and we have lengthy discussions about stuff that you've already been kind of provided, we're trying to avoid that. That's, I think, the crux of what that
Yeah.
is trying to.
But what is it that bothers people about discussion at the board meeting? I mean, we only meet once a month, we don't have any committee meetings. What is the problem with having discussions? I mean, I read through the packet, but I might not understand clearly what other people think. I'd like to maybe hear how other people feel about a policy, or what their understanding is, or actions that we hear about. I just,
I think, to answer that, I'm thinking, and Herb, go ahead, you want to go first? I'm thinking that because in the future, the agendas are going to be packed with things that we need to talk about at the meeting, that we're hoping that some of the things that we don't need to discuss are going to be in the packet that you've read at home. So then when you come here, we're prepared to talk about the stuff that's on the agenda to get that business done. Because if we are talking about things that are just in the packet, you know what I'm saying, that it would take away from the time that we have to talk about the items that are actually on the agenda that should be more.
well, if there's
packed.
going to be that much on the agenda, then maybe we should go to 2 meetings a month. I mean, I don't know of an agenda where where there was too much on there to discuss anything.
Well, I think, yeah, the type of things that are on the agenda are going to be different than what they were in the past. So we are going to bring up topics like what's in legislature and discussions about that. That could take up some time to discuss those things, because we want to hear what you're thinking about those things. If we have things that are just simply in the packet that you can read, then that kind of takes away that time, so we have more time to talk about legislative things possibly that are coming up. Herb?
I don't know whether this is what Karen's talking about, but let's say the packet describes renovating the intermediate school kitchen and says there's going to be 4 sinks. I would hate to have us spend much time discussing whether 4 is the right number of sinks, when another item on the agenda is what are the pros and cons of merging with neighboring districts.
Well, I think you have a good point there, but in committee meetings, we would have had the opportunity in a building meeting to discuss whether 4 sinks are necessary and, where's the money coming from, all of those things. I mean, you can just move on. It's fine.
I was going to say, I think one of the big differences is that I look at the superintendent report, and that what I did today was read it like a good kid, and then and I didn't have any questions, but maybe Jen would have a question about, or you, Karen, or Brandy has a question about the superintendent's report. It's not Pam giving us the report here orally, it's that we've read it and we're like, oh, now I don't remember what I read, so I can't even give a good example, but I might have a question about something, you know what I mean? So I think that's the difference, right, is that we can still talk about that
So
stuff. It's more
members
like-
of the public aren't going to be hearing Pam's report? No?
Well, it's in the minutes, so they can read it.
Right, but they're not going to hear about it at the board meeting.
Right, because this
Apparently not.
board is for us to get our work done. This board meeting is for us as board members. Herb?
Wouldn't Pam's report also be publicly available ahead of the meeting?
Yes.
Oh, it's in the packet too, right?
Goes out in the board packet.
Kathy?
I think a good example would be, say, there's information about legislation that's either gone through or is coming up, and then we come in and discuss it, so everyone knows what it is. so
And
that we
who's
don't-
going to be reporting on that?
Well, it would be in the packet. If it's for discussion, it would be in the packet, so we'd be familiar with where that legislation was when we come into the meeting.
But who's
So we're not spending
doing,
time on
who's
that.
preparing or monitoring the legislature?
Pam.
Usually it's me.
Okay.
It might be that there's something in her superintendent's report, legislation is a good example, that she does want to verbally speak to at that part of the agenda. But she's not going to read the whole report there.
Yeah.
the date of school's opening or the date of open houses. It's written. She doesn't need to. So it's really about discussion is limited towards governance-based, future-focused needs of the board and not what's already passed.
But I think board-
Decision of forced
I'm
sinks
sorry.
is already a done decision, so we're not going to spend time on forced sinks. That's really operations.
But I think that the board can't forget the fact that we're elected by the public, and the public does have a right to know what's going on and should be able to listen to the school board and know from there what's going on. I mean, lots of
Right.
times Pam will tell us, we don't necessarily know there's an open house here, or there's this going on. And some of us want to be actively involved with the schools and go to these things, but if we don't know about them, and half the time the public, I mean, they can't rely on the kids bringing home information.
But you will know about it because she'll put it in a report. So if you read the
But
report.
what about
you
the
will know.
public?
Same thing.
Yeah, they can read the report, but usually it's the schools that lay that out for
Okay.
the public. But if there is something that goes beyond parents that you really want people to attend, that might be something that rises to Pam saying it. I mean, that's just something you're going to work out over time, what's high-level information that you really want public. Have you appointed your representative to Act 173 to the merger committee? Yet. Okay, so when you do that, for example, you're going to really want to spend some time discussing the boundaries that person has to live in. What are the values that Rutland City Public Schools wants that representative to bring to that committee? What are your bright lines that representative cannot cross for you? Equitable access, for example, rigorous academics, whatever it is. I can give you a sample charge language if you want to play with it, but you might want to spend, that's gonna be discussion. And your community should be hearing that discussion. What do you feel is really important as you enter these merger discussions that your newly appointed representative is representing you on? And how often are you going to hear back from that person? And those conversations you need to be having versus spending time on things that are kind of a done deal and not really the board's to do. Does that make sense to you guys? I think you're still on me.
So Herb, thank you so much. for
What did I just do?
Oh, no, you were volunteered.
Thank you so
We're
much
voluntold.
for helping
Being a
us with
monitor.
this, monitoring, a self-evaluation, and, so again, the questions here are also to help us stay, in our lane with policy governance.
And those questions there will help you answer number 2.
Yes, because I think number 2 is the one where we struggle
Sure.
with, so I think making sure that we kind of follow that.
And I know that Karen wasn't present for much of the writing of the policies, but give it a little bit of time. See if it becomes effective for you, right? It isn't making sense at the moment, but I think it will over time.
Gene, under evidence noted, did you have in mind something more than just a yes or a no there?
Yeah, probably, like identify ways the board remained at the governance level, or identify times they moved into operations, just some general short notes. This is a document that can be larger or smaller, it doesn't have to be this one-page grid.
See, I'm trying to reduce my workload.
Yeah. There are no bullets. It's really just a discussion at the meeting. You can do just yes or no, and notes
I
can
know
go to
at
the
Taconic
side.
and Green, even getting the entire board just to fill this out was a considerable
Yeah.
effort. And the more people have to write, the more likely they are not to fill it out.
Yeah, no, I recommend that you don't have everyone fill it out. Just take 5 minutes at the end of the meeting. Herb, you walk through these questions, quick discussion. Was anyone concerned about board members being prepared and engaged? Is that an issue we had tonight? No? Okay, move on. Did the board follow the board agenda and remain in the role of governance rather than operations? And that you'll have more discussion.
I think that harks back to something Karen was talking about. We do have to be prepared to criticize our own performance as a board, but I'm skeptical that we're going to have open discussion of, for example, the very first question. I think this ought to be filled out privately.
Or drop the question.
Well, it's an important question, but I think we're going to get more honest answers if people hand them in to one person anonymously, probably.
It's fine, and I can make a consensus of what I'm hearing and say, it seems the board as a whole feels that we are not coming to the meetings prepared. Can we please be prepared next meeting? I mean, I can do that.
Right, it's not really intended to say, Kathy clearly didn't read the packet this weekend. It's not supposed to be
She didn't know what
that.
open house was, so I know she did.
It's not intended to be, it's a,
Off to the
especially
corner
that
with
one,
me.
some more
Yeah.
general sense, you know. Is Kathy, is Charlene the only one speaking at the meeting? That's a problem. She thinks so too. That's why she assigned this to her.
Right?
You know, or are people kind of engaged in the discussion like you are tonight? I mean, tonight you get the thumbs up. People are engaged in this discussion. And just a reminder, your superintendent has a policy that you gave her that she must tell you, and this is where the student reps can too. She must tell you if she notices that you have broken your own policy.
And that's, you put on your policy 2.8 that
Yeah.
we created, tells her that she can tell us that we're not
That's
doing a
right.
great job.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love to
So
tell
at
my
the end,
bosses.
as you're going through it, you might want to say, do you have any
Standard lane.
suggestions?
Love that.
Or do you have any observations for us, your superintendent?
And you are empowered to tell us
Yeah.
if we're not doing a good job.
Not only empowered, encouraged.
Encouraged and empowered.
But you might want to read the policies first, so you know what they say.
Mary Beth, and then Peter.
So, I know this is asking a lot, not of us here, I think in people in general, like to self-reflect, and maybe I know when I've gone out of bounds, generally, maybe not in the exact moment, you know, so I think it's a good exercise to like self-reflect, and particularly on 1 and 2, right? Obviously, the rest of those are kind of what we did as a group, a little more benign, but I think 1 and 2 are a little bit more self-reflective. And I'll use Christina as an example. You don't say a whole lot, but you are always engaged. So I think your point,
Right.
you know, Karen, is well taken, right? Like, you know, and when you do say something, we know there's something big coming. Just kidding.
And maybe
Bad dad
we
joke.
have- Maybe it's like just a card with just a smaller questions, you know, maybe we can start out simple with yes and no's, and people can just do that at your desk, you know, yes or no, and then give them to me, and I can make a consensus that if the meeting went horrible, I guess everybody's gonna say nobody was prepared. And I can say, okay, next time maybe we should try and, I don't know what I would say, but I guess we have to do this self-evaluation, so let's make a go of it as best we can.
And you would just say, okay, let's make a focus on being engaged. And it's really the big discussions that you're concerned about, you know?
Yeah.
That you want to hear more than the same 2 or 3 voices. Yeah.
The other thing,
Peter had something
yeah,
to say.
sorry.
Just a comment. I know I'm not on the board, so I'm not, know my place. Seen similar self-evaluations done in some of the other committees in the city. Sometimes that duty gets rotated, so, you know, one meeting it's Herb, maybe next meeting it's Karen, and that way you're getting different perspectives on it, and not all the responsibility of the finger pointing is you only put on one board member. It's just giving other people an opportunity to weigh in. Just a suggestion.
And can I ask the question, are you saying that, because there's 2, I guess, methods of doing it. Either we all have our questions at our desks and we kind of fill out the card and put it here and I can kind of just review them quickly for self-evaluation as a group. Or are you saying one person makes the observation for the group and reports it? Is it,
But then you
Am I-
rotate people who do that.
right, that's my question, I guess. Is
So
that-
the way Debbie does it, and she was going to drop in tonight, but I don't know if she'll make it. She, at the start of her meeting, she's no longer chair, but when she was chair, at the start of her meeting, she would pick a board member to be the observer for the night.
Okay,
And that person then does do their own report out. However, you also could have the note card at each place where people take their own and they can add to that observation. and they're just keeping track along the way, not collating, not collecting, but I did notice, that we drifted off into a different topic tonight, so, and maybe that person didn't notice and didn't comment.
Because we are going to discuss it as a group, every meeting. So I don't know how you guys feel. Would you prefer to have your own card and answer three questions or 4 questions, and we talk about it as a group? Or would you prefer to have a rotating person kind of make an observation and they just kind of bring it up and we discuss it as a group still? Either way, we're still going to discuss it as a group. I'm not sure.
Herb's gonna.
I prefer individual cards. I think I've already explained why.
Gotcha.
Something anonymous to where it was like just a quick checklist. That way you couldn't even tell handwriting or whatever in case it got ugly.
I wouldn't do that, yeah.
Anonymous is fine, yeah. Try it one way, see if it works. If it starts taking too long, try it another way, see
Is
if
it
that works.
possible?
I mean, it doesn't have to be these exact questions too. You might, like I said, you might change them over time. It's really just a self-reflection on how effective you're being.
I don't know if it's something that people would even want to do, but is it the type of thing where, like, it doesn't have to be Google Docs, but is there a program where, like, the questions are always there? And, I mean, I'm guessing, do we all have smartphones? Or, like, that we could just quickly, and then no one even has to worry about writing or handwriting, and you can read it, because but it would just be all there. Like, it doesn't say who's connected to it, like, when, like, parents have to fill out things, and the person gets all the information. The
Google
parent.
sheet, and people can just. log
Yeah,
in.
and then it would just be, bam, it'd be right, no one has to, like, collect, it just take our phones and.
It can be on the same Google Doc, and you just add each meeting on top of the
Right.
previous meeting, just
I
the
think
very
there's a
first
little
one.
technical difficulty with that, though, because with our board emails, we can't access Google Docs. We can't have a shared
Is that something like
drive 'cause
Patricia
we're
could?
outside of
You
the-
can't because
it's
of
more about
open meeting law.
Oh. Oh, so
I
that would have
think
to be
that-
public. Well, then can we, can we just
the
have
results
a public Google or,
I don't think you can without,
I don't think so.
there's gotta be a
No.
way around it.
There's gotta be another. Are you thinking about, you would collect the information and then share it at the beginning of the next meeting? Or you're just gonna do it a
Oh,
quick
right.
thing and,
I was trying to think about logistics of that too, like how am I gonna collect it, kind of read 11 cards, and
Oh.
then kind of regurgitate it out and say,
Right.
okay, it seems that we're in a consensus that we've all participated and prepared. It seems that we all felt that we all stayed in our policy governance. I'm thinking about that as we speak.
I like the idea of cards and just maybe put the questions on the desk so that everybody knows and you just fill out your card. I think it's gonna be faster than anything else.
What do we do with these? Are they just for us or are they public?
They really are just for you,
Okay.
and they will culminate in your response in your district quality standards report annually.
They will what in our report?
Culminate.
Okay, oh, culminate.
So,
I thought,
yeah.
I didn't think you said that word. I'm like, I don't know that word, but culminate, I know. Okay. Culminate in our, district quality standards.
those are the things that we met with last year,
Yes.
and we've been through it, yeah, okay.
And when does that do?
We just do it, I put it on my list.
Herb, when you did this before and people filled it out, was it collected and read out that night?
It wasn't. I think Charlene's idea is the best way to do it. The only problem we found at Taconic and Green is that by the end of the meeting, nobody wanted to stick around and analyze this. So what we went to doing was the chair collected them and then within a couple of days sent out if there were any problems. Usually there weren't. I mean, usually there was a bunch of yeses unless it was a special meeting, and it just as you pointed out, a special meeting doesn't necessarily have discussions of opportunities to link to the owners. But if we had the patience to stick around after the meeting, I think that would make more sense.
I feel like the spirit of maybe what was happening that night would be better discussed if we could talk about it then.
You're right.
Instead of.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, and the same people who are all involved would still be there to be part of the
Yes.
discussion. Whereas if it's the next meeting, then there might be a different group of people there and.
You kind of forget, or or not forget, but the feeling, the emotions are still not there, and if it's something feel strongly about it, I'd like to discuss it at the time.
Debbie, we're on board self-evaluation and just the logistics of how it's actually done. And I don't know if you could speak to I know how you have done it, but I don't know what you're doing now. And like, the question we have right now is, there seems to be a consensus that people would like to fill out the questions and turn it into Charlene, and Charlene could quickly summarize and report out whether, we seem to have an issue with staying on the agenda, but otherwise we're fine tonight. I mean, that's, that simple a sentence.
Yeah.
Do you have any?
Still thinking about it.
Any experiential?
So are we talking about doing a meeting self-evaluation?
Yes.
Okay, so doing one at every meeting,
Yeah.
right, yeah, and having that be on the agenda, which is great, towards the end. I think the way we're doing it now works really well, but it doesn't mean you have to do it this way, but the way we do it is, we just assign, have you told them how we do it, or no?
Yeah,
Oh,
I think
then
I
I don't
did.
want to repeat what
Yeah.
you said.
But I'm not sure if you read it out that night. Does the
Yes.
monitor that you assign it to, are they the only
do.
ones?
We have like the official meeting evaluator will take notes throughout the meeting on each of those questions. And then when we get to that agenda item, he'll read what he wrote, and then we'll add things.
If you think of it.
If we think of them. And then he submits it to the executive
I
assistant.
think some of the conversation we had was around having a board member maybe evaluating another board member's performance, or having hard
Engagement.
feelings. Possibly, so we were trying to avoid that kind
Oh.
of scenario. I don't know if that ever came up.
It doesn't usually get personal. We always, the questions are framed, did the board do this? Did the board do that?
Oh, well, we say we're all board members, so how about
Oh.
changing that part too?
Did the board,
Did the
right?
board-
Did the board, was the
Make it-
board
was the board
engaged and prepared?
Yes.
Oh, that is better.
Oh, I like that.
Can you
Sure.
later share your form with us?
Yeah,
Thank
I'd be
you.
happy
Her
to.
form
Debbie.
is a
So
similar, just saying, her form is a similar looking form, but different questions. As they're starting out, I had different questions than what you're using right now. So, yeah, she can share it, and
just
you
to
might
see
want to
what-
adapt it, but,
Yeah.
yeah. Interestingly, you do it on a Google Drive, right?
We do, yeah.
And it's not a decision that you're making. I don't want to step on your tech director's toes at all, but it's something to think about. You're not taking action out of the public eye.
So the experience I've had is that if I'm sent something from school, I can access it. And that is a decision by our tech person that no one who's outside, anyone who's not an employee of the district, can access the Google Drive. So we have there's the rcps.org, we're rutlandcitypublicschools.org. We have our own domain.
I see.
So we don't have.
Can your domain have its own Google Drive? You don't want to go down the path of,
Do we,
having-
yes, do we want to do that?
yeah, you don't want to go down the path of having any discussion online that the public does not have access to. This is just filling out a form and it's being reported publicly after. I don't know. I'm not Patricia. I don't want to step on, you hired her for a reason.
Well, and also maybe we want to get a legal opinion.
Yeah.
Maybe we just want to use cards and not
Yeah.
even.
That's what I think. I mean, that seems to be easiest.
No, it's okay.
Christina,
I
I
was just
think
trying to be
it's a great
tidy.
idea,
I was just
but-
trying to be tidy, that's all. I just,
Some of
because it'd
us
be
are
right there.
old
No one would have to
school.
like,
Totally get it.
it was just to make it easier.
And it's just for us anyway, right? It's just so
Yeah.
that we can continue to
Exactly.
improve and.
Make it
Yeah, it was just to make it neat and you didn't have to worry about people reading people's writing. I'm not offended.
We would just have to use our own personal emails or our own personal Gmails in order to get a shared Google document going. And I try to keep all my stuff.
Yeah,
all my
I
school
do
stuff on
recommend
my
that you keep it
board.
all, so that's not a good choice. Time check. I did cut into your next agenda item, so I'm claiming that I have until 7:45,
Okay.
based on your agenda.
totally.
Because your monitoring policy is already taken care of.
Yep.
But that means we have about 20 minutes max left. And what I'd still like to get done is talk about student reps on the board.
Yep.
And then maybe give you an example of doing a scenario or two.
Yep.
Is that okay? Do you feel solid enough for a place to start on your board self-evaluation
Yes.
and modify it
Yes.
as you go? Okay, excellent. Everyone was engaged, by the way, I just wanted to point that out. Okay, so I was asked a question about student reps on the board, and many school boards in Vermont have and are encouraged to have student reps on the board. But what is the role of the student rep? And the question I was asked is, what is the role of a student rep on a policy governance board in particular? Debbie and I do a monthly drop-in meeting for policy governance boards virtually, and this was a topic that came up last year, so it's on several PG boards' minds. So the statute does allow, Vermont statute does allow for student reps. They are not elected by owners. Generally, they're appointed by you, the school board. They don't go on the ballot. They don't go through a public election. They are encouraged to generally, they are encouraged to participate in discussion. Voting, however, is an advisory vote, and you decide if you want them to vote or not. So because they're not elected by voters, their vote doesn't count the same way yours would because you're elected. Karen?
I would just say I would welcome any student input from either of you, you have anything. But I do feel strongly that voting should not happen since they are not elected.
Okay, thank you.
It can.
So it can, and that's up to your board, and I'm going to talk about policy. So what to do is I recommend that you actually add a policy to your policy governance policies that clearly define, just like you define the role of the superintendent, you define the role of the board, you define the role of the chair, define the role of the student rep. So I'm going to show you a couple of sample policies. This one's very tiny print because it's long, but just what a couple of other school districts have done. In both cases, I'm using Winooski and Mount Mansfield. They added to their governance policies, the 4.0 ones. So Winooski added a bullet under 4.1 called student representative on the board. They start with saying that they will include direct representation from students by incorporating 2 students in the regularly scheduled board meetings within what Vermont law allows. And then they define student representatives are selected on a yearly basis through a process approved by the superintendent. Student reps shall agree to serve for 2 years. One rep is in her 11th grade or below, and the other rep is, at least one rep is in 11th grade or below. And the reason they put that there is that there's some continuity, some turnover. Student reps shall be trained. Student reps shall have the opportunity. In their case, they chose, and what Karen's saying is she's not comfortable with it. You don't have to be. But they said that student reps can cast advisory votes. Student reps, they pay their student, I'm sorry to tell you guys this. I don't know what stipend they pay, but anyway, they pay their student reps a stipend. That's the only district I know of that does that.
They don't even pay us.
I know, right? Exactly.
And T&G paid too.
Now we do.
Student reps shall be awarded academic credit, in their case. Student reps will be provided a mentor from among current board members, so they know what's going on. And the board establishes internal practices. So that's how they chose to write theirs. A shorter one is Mount Mansfield. They just say that this is a whole separate bullet. They created a whole separate policy for this. Student representation provide district-wide perspective to the larger board. They attend and participate in all board meetings. They can cast advisory votes. Again, you could choose not to do this, Karen. I'm not saying you have to. They represent student perspective to the board, not just personal reactions. And again, they ask for a commitment of 2 years. So if you just think through, what would you like your student reps to do? And just write it up and add it to your governance policies. Karen?
I'd just like to ask the students how they feel about it.
I think that we should be able to give input, but I'm fine not voting and not having my vote count because we weren't elected by the public. Instead, we were elected by the student body, which is a very different demographic than who you guys were elected by.
Thank you.
Very well said. Well said.
I agree with
Well, no, and you know, I know that usually you give out your reports, and maybe we're not doing that anymore either, but I would encourage you to speak up if you have something you feel strongly about, or, you know, a problem or whatever that you feel should be brought to the board's attention.
Mary Beth?
I think we need to do a better job of making sure that we ask for your voice as a whole. I think we've said that, I think, year after year after year, we've said that, and yet I don't know, I think because you're so respectful and you sit there so nice and quiet, and that we don't often think of it, and I think it's important that we work harder to make sure we hear your voice. I know in other governing bodies that I've been involved in, with for example, the National Collegiate Athletic Association, the NCAA, they look to their Student Athlete Advisory Council with significant weight, right? With, the student athlete leaders to help advise governance policies and how they might run their organization. So I think, and I think, like you said, Karen, knowing what they say about this and then knowing what you say about other things is incredibly important. So that being said, also, if you have other ideas, not to put you on the spot right now, but I think they can think about it, right, and bring things forward. Charlene, if you'd like.
I think too, if we're having more open discussions about things like merger, consolidation, those types of topics, I think, I can do a better job at giving you a heads up of these are the topics that we're going to be talking about, so that you can be thinking about your perspectives, so that you can offer those at meetings.
Herb.
I'm just curious, either from Jean or from Karen, what are the problems with having student reps casting advisory, non-binding votes?
Personal preference from the board. I don't have a pro or con.
Are we going to be continuing to do the reports going forward?
Good question.
If so, it would be considered incidental information and would be listed under the superintendent's report.
In the packet. Yeah. You wouldn't be reading.
It also could be spoken. I mean,
I don't
you
know.
can give them the floor for a couple minutes if you want, but that's where it would go. It would go under the incidental reports.
I think we should include them. I mean, I like hearing about what's going on in the schools, and I think it's an important piece.
Herb.
But as a newbie, my impression was that the reports the student reps read were actually written not by them, but by the principals anyway. Why don't we have principals' reports in the packet if we're going to have these things at all?
I was in the impression that we would just have their reports as part of the packet under your, or maybe before or after, whatever, because you're not reading your report either. So that's good information, but it's going to be in the packet.
Right. It'll be in the packet, but then there's also items from my superintendent's report that I might highlight.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if we want to, I don't know.
I think we should highlight them and have them give the reports
But we're highlighting it for whom?
for the public, for us, for
But I feel
information.
like, and forgive me if I'm going.
They're doing fine.
This meeting is for us as a board and not directly for the public. So yet the information is going to be provided to the public and to all of us. We are here to do our business, the board business. Peter?
Question about advisory votes, just because I don't understand it. So, say they were allowed and cast an advisory vote. Vote tally is basically, your votes are going to override whatever.
Right, they're meaningless, basically.
They're not
It's just a way for them to voice.
An opinion.
It's an opinion. It's just a way for them to voice on behalf of the students and behalf of the young people. This is what we think the young people, if they could vote on it, and the vote carried, would say. I would think that, even though they're not elected, but being representative of the students, I have trouble seeing why that would not be a good thing.
Just a point of clarity, both of them are elected by the student body. They are not elected by the taxpayers, but they are elected by the student body, so just to note that.
Their job is as student representatives, though. They are supposed to be representing those who elected them, even though it's.
I don't think that would be a disparagement on the public.
Feels like valuable input to me,
Probably no better than I
personally.
do, but
I mean, as long as it's advisory. I know some districts or some counties are looking to actually have their vote count, and I totally disagree
Right,
with
but at
that.
the moment, that's not
Big advisory.
legal in
Right,
Vermont.
but, I want them to make sure they feel comfortable doing it. I mean,
So Sophia and Danielle, let me show you kind of what that might look like. Let's say the board is having a discussion about the use of cell phones in school, year-old discussion now, and whether or not there should be a policy and what it might say. You, as students, might have a different perspective on the impact of that policy than the adults sitting around the table. And so you might say, well, I'm not sure if what your policy is going to work because of X, Y, Z. They'll appreciate hearing it. Might not change the policy, and it might. I had a student rep force us to take an afternoon off because the transportation department was on strike, and he felt we should support, I don't know, and the board agreed with him. So you do have influence, even if you don't have a vote. Knowing the impact of policies they want to pass, or knowing the impact, just knowing how you hear it is helpful information for the board. And it may take you some time to feel comfortable speaking up, but eventually you'll kind of get it and go, that didn't sound right to me as a student.
I don't know who was first. I was looking down. Okay, all right. So my perspective, or the way that I might encourage us to make this decision, is to say, or not that we're making a decision right now, but to guide us as we move forward with any ideas you might have, or any ideas we might have, is to say, why do we have them, right? So we have them, in my mind, which is probably different from other people's mind, for two reasons. One, to represent the student voice, obviously, right? That's why you're called a student representative, to represent the students of Rutland City Public Schools. I also see it as a way to encourage growth in leadership and, an educational opportunity for them, right? So I think, I don't know if we define that anywhere, but I think that would be smart for us to do, is to define why, because then that might help us place them in a role. It's difficult to give people a role somewhere without knowing why they're there, right? I think we want to know why you're here. And so I think we might want to talk about that, maybe not right now, but another time, and keep this ongoing, and.
I think the discussion is great, and I don't want you to feel like we're going to be calling on you every meeting saying, take a stance on something. What's your stance? It's nothing like that. We just want to encourage you to voice, any kind of concerns that you may have as a student. So don't feel like you're going to be pressured into having to take a stance on all topics, because not everything is something that you'd have to kind of weigh in on, but there might be some things that we would love to hear from you. So, Kathy?
Just the ease of retaining advisory votes in the minutes for future reference, should we need it. Sharing perspective is really important in the meeting at hand, but everything is sort of shortened in the minutes, which is appropriate. But by having an advisory vote, we're able to really solidify the student's voice in whatever the topic is that they're giving an advisory vote.
And I think about some of the topics we've had in the past too, and I also want to be careful to protect them as well from having to make some kind of decisions or take stances on things that are controversial maybe for them too. So I also have a feeling of protecting them as well.
They can abstain as well.
I don't want to pull them into something that would be disagreeable. Herb?
Yeah, you're right. But of course, any board member can abstain from any vote. But I would think there might be times when a student rep would actually want her or his vote in the minutes to just talk to the other student and say, well, here's what I told the board. Not always.
Talk when you want.
Yeah.
And if you don't,
Yeah.
it's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just trying to weigh out those things.
Well, yeah, such a good point is, do we need, if a person is under 18, is it really ethical to put a name in meeting notes? I don't know the answer.
Yeah,
to
your
that
whole board
question.
meeting is public.
So, okay. All right.
I don't think that's a problem. I think it's more important that you're offering an opportunity for an advisory vote, and the student may choose not to take that opportunity. They can abstain. They may want to go back and talk to people about what you're talking about and don't have an opinion that night. you know? So they may just say, passing on this one.
Karen?
I would change my objection to them having an advisory vote. I don't have a problem with the advisory vote. But, you know, as you said, I think that we need to be careful how, what their vote is, could be interpreted as. You know, if they always sided with the board and just agreed with everything, then some people could come back and say, well, you're really, you know, why are you on there? You're not representing us. But I think under the superintendent's report, we need to give them an opportunity to talk. I mean, if they don't have the experience of speaking in public, they're never going to feel comfortable, you know, weighing in on a policy that is probably going to be confrontational.
And
Or
maybe it's up to me to give the opportunity to say, is there something you would like to add? And pause for a second and ask, would you like to add anything, and give you the space to do that if you feel like you needed to. And if you don't, you don't, and that's fine, we can move on, but maybe I just keep some space there and ask the question. That way, you don't feel pressured. You can just say, I don't have anything to say at this time.
What about when you say like any discussion, like is that open for them to, if they, could that just to know that you are welcome to speak too? So you don't have to feel like, and what about our student reps now? I've asked the rest of you, how do you feel? So you're not like,
Spotlight
Right, exactly.
is over here, right.
Any discussion, we just make sure we look at you, actually, and like.
Yes, yeah, so.
I mean, the point would be if something occurs to Danielle when a topic is brought up, there's nothing wrong with her raising her hand at the very beginning and saying, here's what I think about this.
These guys are like, what? I didn't sign
I
up for
know,
this.
exactly. I did not sign
I
up
watched
for
the people
this.
before me sit here very quietly and politely, and
All of a sudden now?
but they don't get a copy of the packet, do they?
They should.
when they get here, they do, I think.
Yeah.
But they don't get it ahead of time.
Do you get it ahead of time, the packet?
The
Like in your
agenda
email?
and everything in it?
Yeah, we get it in the
Yeah.
email.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, so it sounds like you're interested in having a policy on student reps. And I heard several of the points that were made here. It sounds like you're interested in advisory
They're
vote.
just not getting paid.
You're not paying them. You're paying them the same as, yeah, okay.
I mean, should
So-
we ask Ted?
That,
Right? No.
no,
pay
actually, I'm
students.
not, you
We're not
can't
paying
do
students.
stipends.
Nope.
That's actually not, so I'm not sure why they have that
They do
language in
that, I
there.
know.
You actually can't. The auditors don't like stipends.
Correct.
Oh.
Not the students.
You're going to have them, I would change it to say that you want them to participate in all regular meetings. You might have especially, student reps do not participate in executive session
Oh,
because the reason for executive session is executive. So they don't meet that threshold. Are you comfortable with having them serve a 2-year term? Is that what you do
That's what
currently?
they do now.
Okay. And do you have any guidelines around one is a senior, one is not, or do you just,
We always have. I mean, I think it's just been practice. I mean,
so I could draft something for you that you could look at based on this discussion if you'd like, and just save you some time, or you could wordsmith something yourselves, assign somebody here to draft. I mean, I gave you 2 examples.
Herb,
Wasn't there an old policy on student reps?
you want to wordsmith something for us?
Sure.
That'd be great.
I'm so glad you joined the board.
I don't think we had any policy.
Say that again, Bianca.
I don't think we previously had a policy on student reps.
Got it.
And then it's helpful for you guys as you're running for your student rep office, or the people who follow you do. They know what the job description is, what's expected of them. So maybe, right, they will be encouraged to share opinions. That doesn't mean they have to, just encouraged to. So it is 7:45. And the other thing that I was going to do tonight is take you through a practice scenario or two. Don't want to delay your meeting. Do you want me to pop in at a future meeting and do it? Okay.
Roll.
All right. Good discussion tonight, though. You really tackled 3 things. All right, so scenarios are really helpful. They are a simple habit that prevent a lot of trouble. And right now, you are learning how to work under this policy governance structure. It's new to you. So the idea of using scenarios, maybe not every meeting, your agendas might get full, and they probably take 15 minutes if you know, it doesn't have to take a long time, but it does fill in 15, 20 minutes of a board meeting. Maybe it's every other meeting, maybe it's looking at your agendas and seeing where you can fit it in. But even if you got a few in throughout the year, it's helpful. And this is in the PowerPoint. You're basically, when a situation comes up, or a scenario comes up, or if you're debriefing something that happened in a board meeting, the steps to walk through it are to ask yourself, is there a policy that already addresses this? Okay, I'm going to go back to you and tell you again my beekeeping scenario from Barstow. When the teachers came, talked to the board, and said, you know, there's bees in this classroom, what are you, board, going to do about it, right? So the first thing the board should have done, didn't, but should have, is there anything that addresses this in policy? Well, nothing in policy addresses bees, but you're asking yourself your first question on your sheet there.
Right, it's our
Is
first
this
question.
an operational issue? I mean, is it really, as a board, are you all going to have to stand up and go look in this classroom and take care of the bees? Or are you going to look at your superintendent and say, this is an operations issue, right? So that's the first thing you ask. Where it actually is addressed in policy, for that example, is board management delegation, where you state that the superintendent is in charge of the operations of the district. So now you know that. So according to the policy then, is this something delegated to the superintendent? Yes. Does this scenario reflect behavior consistent with your governance process and board management delegations policies? So if you send it to the superintendent, are you following your own policies? And what action, if any, should the board now take? In that example, you take no action. Or you could say, superintendent, could you please look into this and bring us a report at the next meeting on what you find? Just so that you're informed and you're letting your community know that you're hearing the concern and you're informed, but you're not taking action. You're putting the action where it belongs. Okay, so let's try one in real life. So I actually have a flow chart for this one for you. During a meeting, a topic comes up that's not on the agenda. I heard that said earlier today. It happens in every board. It happens all the time. So a topic is not on the agenda. What happens next? What has your board said in relevant policies? The only one holding policies right now is Herb, so he might have to tell us. But what has your board already said in its policies about topics and agenda?
No pressure, Herb.
I feel like Jeopardy should be playing in the background or something.
Does everybody have access to the policies?
We talked about that earlier. They aren't on the web
We're
yet, but
getting
they
them.
will be.
So everybody's gonna have a printed copy?
I don't know, but they'll be on
Yes,
the web.
I made note that we needed to have policies in hard copy here
Yeah.
at every meeting.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I could help you, you might look at your agenda building policy under the 4.0s.
Especially 4.3.
Okay? And what does it say about agendas?
Talks about the work plan, talks about getting an item on the agenda.
That's it, getting an item on an agenda. So a topic comes up during the meeting that's not on the agenda. How does an item get on the agenda? You do have a policy that speaks to that.
Yep, we do. May request, may recommend or request an item for board discussion by submitting the item to the chair no later than 10 days before the agenda is to be warned. The chair, and I think we had quite a discussion about this,
Yeah.
in consultation with the clerk and the superintendent, will screen potential agenda items to ensure that they relate to the board's job description. And here's 3 screening questions, kind of like what's on our
Placard?
here. Does this issue belong to the board or the superintendent? What category of policy does the issue relate to? And what has the board already said in this category, and how is the issue related? And I think 4.4, the board chair's role, also fits in here, because it's up to the board to ensure that the chair, to ensure the board behaves the way the board said it was going to.
There's another policy that, yeah. So you've authorized the board to do that. Now, this is not a question that's up there, but why is it important that topics that just come up during a meeting are not discussed during the same meeting.
Well, first, we're not
Given the
prepared to
need.
talk about it.
You're not prepared to talk about it, right? What else? Your community might not like that topic, and they're going to have notice so they can show up. You're supposed to give public notice of what you're discussing, so that if the community wishes to weigh in, they can do so.
Less important, but you might also have a board member who has a commitment someplace else that they'd like to fulfill, but if they knew this was going to be on the agenda, they'd ditch the other commitment and come.
That's right. So your board also wants appropriate notice, right? And, you know, you may not have the information that you need. Your superintendent hasn't had time to prepare for the background information, so there's another policy, Herb, that might be affected. The superintendent must provide you with unbiased information when you're making decisions. You can bring up a topic to, I'd like to discuss this issue in the board meeting as opposed to tell the chair after. And the chair says, I'll take that under consideration, and you move on. And then if it's an appropriate topic, according to your screening questions, then you'll put it on the next agenda, and that's fine. So it can come up, but you don't get bogged down in it. You don't get stuck in it.
We won't have long discussions about it.
Right.
So I just need your help to understand that that's what I'll be trying to do, is gather that information in,
In advance.
and move on. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the other questions, according to the board's policies, does this situation refer to something delegated to the superintendent? The answer is no. Is it behavior consistent with the board's governance process and board management delegation? No. It's, your policies say don't do that. And what action, if any, should the board now take? The chair then absorbs the topic request and considers it according to policy. I did create, I think you already have it, but I
In
did create.
self-evaluation, I didn't want to interrupt you, but during self-evaluation, if
Yes.
we didn't do this properly, this would come up during our self-evaluation.
And you, that could be your scenario for that night.
That we did not do that properly.
Yeah. So this is a filter that I've given to other boards to use. Actually, your questions already cover this. It's kind of stolen a little bit from your questions, but I put it in the slides in case you wanted something pretty. So here's another one. The board is reviewing a monitoring report from the superintendent. A board member notes, this is like a quiz for tonight, a board member notes that the interpretation is not how they would have interpreted it. How should the board respond? What policies are affected?
Herb?
Well, you go straight, you go straight to the monitoring policy, which
Exactly.
says that.
Yes, whatever that was, yeah.
Yes, that's
That talks about reasonable interpretations.
Exactly, that's exactly right. And so, does it refer to anything that's been delegated to the superintendent? Yes, the superintendent is delegated to have a reasonable interpretation. I don't actually understand this question well either. Does this scenario reflect behavior consistent with board's governance process? So, never mind.
Yeah,
I
never
just,
mind.
don't worry about that question. But what action, if any, should the board take now? Charlene, you're on the spot.
Well, we're going to have a discussion, and if we don't have a consensus, then we could make a motion to either change the verbiage of the policy and put it on to the next agenda for first reading, or Herb?
But even before that, maybe the chair can say to the member, all right, I understand that this isn't how you would have interpreted it, but do you think it's unreasonable?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Redirect it to
Yes.
that.
Can you say that again? Yes.
Redirect it to the
I need to
unreasonable.
put that on my,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But it could be reasonable and still, you still want to change it.
Oh, yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, but you do want to clarify, like, let's say that it's not the interpretation you wanted, Kathy. Does the board agree with you? And that's when you would change the policy. Yeah,
If the board, yeah.
yeah,
So like the lengthy would be a good example of that. If multiple people had decided,
yeah.
then we could have put that. in.
Exactly, that's why that was a great example to bring up tonight, yeah. Okay, let me give you another scenario. Just kind of run through a few of these. Oh, I keep going to my computer, but it's not there. I also gave you some answers in your report. Scenario, a board member asked the superintendent in a meeting about a specific operational decision, such as why they hired so-and-so.
This is so good. Exactly.
These are real, they're not specific to you guys, these are real situations that happen at school boards all over the place. But what do you do about it? Are there any policies that speak to hiring decisions or specific operational decisions?
We have a policy on this.
You do. Your board management delegation says operational decisions are up to the superintendent.
I have a feeling that certain policies
Stand out.
will come out all the time.
Catch on very fast. They do. And so having the policies with you is kind of helpful, and you'll start to highlight just those policies, yeah. And they're almost always in board management delegation or governance process.
And I think as we all get used to it, you know, we won't be doing that.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it'd be less and less.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to kind of give you another one. Stop looking at the computer. A board member says that while they were at the grocery store, a parent told them of a fight that occurred at the high school. The board member is upset they didn't know of this already. What should the board do? So, are there any policies around this? This one's a little bit more interesting, a little bit more tricky.
Delegation.
Herb?
Yeah. I mean, you've
I'm just kidding.
you've delegated it. We have delegated it.
Yes, you have delegated it. However, look at your executive limitations. That's what ELs are. Is there anything in executive limitations that might address this?
Isn't there some policy about how she has to report to a certain instance of things that
Incidental
happens or-
information,
yeah.
things that happen. So that might generate a board discussion of what constitutes the type of information that you want the superintendent to report out. So, for example, as superintendent, I kind of talked with my boards and I said, if it's something that I know is going public, like we had 3 fire trucks with their lights on in front of the school, and you know that's zooming all over the community, give a heads up
Yeah.
to the board so that when you're walking in the grocery store, your response can be, yes, I do know about that. We're waiting for a report on more information. You don't have to say, this is what happened, and, you know, it was a fight between X, Y, and Z, and that's not it. But just, yes, I have been informed about it, and in your head, you're saying, and I'm staying in my role as the board. I'm not the one going in taking care of this fight. I'm not the one who has to deal with it. But you may, we experienced that, I think, when you and I were working with your admin team. Something came up and you immediately said, I think I need to know about that. So you had the same conversation with principals. What is it principals need to be notifying the superintendent about? What is it the superintendent needs to notify the board about at an incidental information level? I told you, I think, in my training that we had a school bus basically go into a covered bridge after a basketball game, and the bus didn't fit, and did some damage to the covered bridge. Bus driver didn't know it at the time. The next morning, he saw a news report about it and said,
I remember you told us
I think
this.
that was me. So he came and reported it to his supervisor. Supervisor told me, I called the town, it's us. But meanwhile, I just let the board know, please be aware that this incident occurred last night on a sports trip, and we are taking care of it, you know, so
I
that's
think
good.
Pam tries to do that.
Yeah, I think she does too, based on what I've seen, yeah.
Let me throw you a little bit of a curveball based on something that I've never experienced in 20 years roughly on school boards, but take your scenario here, and let's say that the board member was also told that this fight was between kids who had been fighting before, and that the principal had done nothing about it, and that it had been reported to the superintendent months ago.
Nothing's
and nothing
happening,
had
what are you
happened.
gonna do about it, Herb?
Okay, so one response would be, well, this is the time at which the board figures out what policy was involved and asks the superintendent, within a few days, we want a monitoring report here, right?
Right. So basically, in this particular situation, what's going through your head as a board member is, do we have a safety issue in our schools? And so you might ask for some data on safety issues or some discussion of protocols or things like that. But you don't need to know the specifics
No.
of who was fighting and what exactly the school did. In fact, you shouldn't
But-
know, because if it's appealed to you, then you want to be unbiased.
Pam?
But before we get to the point where I'm doing a complete monitoring report, because somebody said something at a grocery store to a single board member, I would hope that we would have
Discussion
some discussion first before
Yes.
I'm giving a monitoring
Yes.
report.
Yeah.
Well, a single board member can't ask for a monitoring report anyway.
Very good.
I was just gonna say, well, we can't bring up something new that's not on the agenda, but if we are wondering if, like, for example, previously, we've had a lot of issues with the middle school. And we were getting, people were talking to us all the time about what was going on and felt nothing was being done about it. But, so as a board member, I can't ask, I hear this, but now I can't ask we have a meeting tomorrow night, but I can't ask at that meeting because
I don't recommend it because you just put your superintendent on public notice of having to manage that question without disclosing student information. Give her a call, shoot her an email.
No. If I hear something, I give the superintendent a call
Yeah.
and say, I heard this,
Yeah.
But my point is that it can't go on the agenda until the next meeting. Because I can't bring something new to the board.
Right, but it may not have to ever go on the agenda. You let the superintendent know that you heard about this in the grocery store. That particular fight doesn't belong on any agenda. But in general, if there are middle school issues in general, then it might be something that Pam says, we have some issues happening in the middle school, and we're bringing in some behavior specialists to work with some students too, or whatever you want to say.
Okay, so.
This is not a topic that normally would be a board discussion.
So in this situation, we would just call Pam and say,
Yeah,
I'm concerned
Heads
that
up,
I'm hearing
this
a
is what I'm
number of
hearing.
incidents that have occurred.
yeah, heads up.
But
this is-
so we would never really get a report out on it or anything?
Not around this particular incident.
No, I'm not saying just one incident, but.
But you do have a policy that talks about safe environments and emergency procedures, and eventually that it might come out in that, or it also might just come out in a superintendent's interim incidental information report, depending on level of severity. In other words, a fight that happens at the hospital does not, at the hospital, really does not rise to your level. You could care less, but a fight that occurs at the high school is not really a board level issue.
Right.
Continual fighting at the high school that requires some significant changes in safety structure is something the superintendent would bring for board information.
I think it would be just like what you did before, years ago, and said we'd like a report on safety.
Right.
Yeah, you could do that. During a public comment, a community member speaks about a particular staff person, maybe a coach or a principal or a teacher, and they want the board to take action. How should the board respond?
Can't.
But what do you say to that person who's, I'm going to make Peter that person. What do you say to Peter right now?
Knock it off, Peter. No, we have to say that there's a chain of command, and
Good.
we have to follow that chain.
Good.
So has he contacted the principal? Has he contacted the superintendent?
Right, right. And even if they've contacted the superintendent, but they don't like the
Like what they heard,
superintendent's
right.
response, the board looks at whether or not policies were being followed.
Right.
Doesn't take on the investigative role of what's
Right.
happening. So, but yes, letting the community know that there is a chain of command, and this is more effectively addressed through the chain of command. So if you talk to the principal and don't like it, then talk to the superintendent.
Right.
Good, very good, Karen.
Because I actually had a phone call like that. Somebody was unhappy with the teacher, and then it got the principal. Supposedly, they had talked to the principal. I said, "Well, have you talked to the superintendent about the problem?" "No. How do I reach them?"
Yeah, exactly.
And so I told him, and he was happy as can be.
Yeah.
And it never went. I mean, it never went anywhere.
Yeah.
I think as long as they're getting some answer,
Yeah, they want to be heard. And they want
Exactly.
to feel that their child is safe, really.
right?
I don't think there's too many more. The board is aware the superintendent is about to reduce the number of kindergarten teachers due to enrollment fluctuations. They also know that parents of kindergarten students will be angry with this decision. Maybe a board member is a parent of a kindergarten student who's going to be angry at this situation. What's the board's role in this decision?
It's been delegated.
Yeah.
That's right. This is a delegated, this is operations role.
Look at you catching
A
I would say,
board-
Karen, I think you're gonna like this better than.
Exactly.
I don't think so.
She's got an A+.
Can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Aw.
3 new board members are elected to the board. They do not know what policy governance is. They are not aware of the policies. What should the board do?
Send them to training.
Send them to a training, give them the policies.
I think we had even decided that we were going to, in March, have, right after the election, when we typically have a meeting to swear in, we were going to have that as a board professional development time, where we then do board training with the whole board.
Refresher training.
To refresh.
And last year, didn't you also have a meeting, I think it was before people had to submit nominating petitions?
Yes,
and
you were
I think you brought up policy governance there, too.
When we did an information night for our prospective board members.
Nice, yeah,
We put that in our work plan as well.
yeah. I'm done with scenarios for tonight.
Great. Are we doing a motion on
Oh, yes.
these policies?
On the next, when we move on, yeah.
So you gave me 15 minutes early and let me run 15 minutes late. I thank you for that.
No
Thank you for that.
Yes.
And I'll turn the agenda back over to you because we have gone through everything here, and I hope you found this helpful.
Thank you.
Very helpful.
Thank you.
Just a question I think relates to what Jean's been doing. Do we have somewhere in our work plan evaluating as a board, our compliance with,
Your own policies?
yes,
Yes.
3.0
You have a
and
governance
4.0?
Yes, you have a column for each.
Well, but
They're
I'm not
plugged in
sure
there.
when it says policy governance assessment, whether we're talking about saying to ourselves, are we following, for example, 4.1, or are we just talking about this form that we talked about? So I don't see anything here that says in February, for example, we're going to decide whether the board has followed some of its own policies.
We do have an annual report, if you see in
Right.
June, that we're supposed to, I think, would that not encompass what you're?
It would, but it seems like that's a lot of work to do it all at once.
Right, so throughout the year, starting in this meeting, it says that you are actually going to look at assignment of board members to ad hoc committee for staff relations. That's not really a policy. That's governance process, that's not it. Board self-evaluation. Nope, actually, I don't see it on here. Did I? So yes, there should be a column, just like there is for 3.4 monitoring, where the board does their own monitoring. So just like you've assigned policies under 3.4, there should be a column where this month you're going to do this policy, this month you're going to do this policy of your own policies, which would encompass maybe assigning, the easiest way to do it maybe is to list the board governance policies and have people, assign 2 people to a policy and have those people kind of review the policy, bring it in, and give a report on, I think we're doing well. Maybe it's not here because you haven't lived it at all yet, but you should build it into your work plan by next year.
Would that be similar to, like, in look to, like, the superintendent?
Yes, just like the executive limitations for superintendent.
What we do is, at our board, is at our annual retreat, we put them on the work plan, and we assign individual board members to monitor specific board policies. So we know, and we all have busy months of the year when we know we're not going to be able to prepare a report, right? So we avoid those. So we have it all mapped out, and then we know when we're supposed to do a policy monitoring report on one of our policies. We'll take a crack at it, and then it goes into the board packet, so it has to be done timely so that everybody gets to see it before the board meeting, and then the board has a chance to ask questions of the person that did the monitoring report. Similar to that evaluation thing, it's also an opportunity for the board to say, oh, but we also did this, here's another piece of evidence, or here's where we really should be improving. So we do have a brief discussion about that policy. And I think we even added a column at the end for suggestions for improvement or ways we can improve. And that's been extremely helpful because then
Did you put that on your work plan, you mean, or was that on your
that
your
was a
form?
policy monitoring template. that we
Yes,
had.
but on your work plan, do you state when you're doing each of those
We
policies?
do.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
That's
mapped
what
it
it
all
sounds
out.
like, yeah.
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 So in theory, Jen would, I'm not saying you are, but Jen would add all the
Add a
policies
column.
to the work plan.
Add an extra column
And
on
we
there,
could
yeah.
essentially assign people to them ahead of time, so they were aware of what policies they were going to monitor. And then are you saying that the monitoring report, is it similar to the one that Pam does?
Does not need to be a lengthy written monitoring report.
It's
You can
usually
just,
a table. I'll
just a
send you
table. It's like a
sample.
table, like your
Perfect.
self-eval, and it's just
Yeah.
kind of jotting notes. You do not need to do that full written
And it's
monitoring
really
report.
helpful to assign an easy policy to a new board member and give them that practice. Like there's a couple really low-hanging fruit ones, and you could even also offer a veteran board member to help the new board member do their first policy
Mm-hmm.
monitoring report. That's what we often do, and then that's been very helpful too.
In Taconic and Green, we did it in a considerably different way. We had a schedule like what we now have for executive limitation monitoring, so that, I think this is what you're saying, it happens in Barstow every month. You brought up a different policy under 3.0 or 4.0,
Yeah.
but from there, we handle it differently. The board was polled by email about, are we complying entirely, substantially, only partially, or not at all? And then the next meeting, the board discussed the results. And that did not require any board members to try to summarize what they thought we'd been up to. It was all a matter of what the board said we actually had been doing.
Yeah, it's another way you could do it. But I don't think you have to worry about that quite yet, because this is your first meeting of implementing your own policies. So I think you want to give yourselves a little bit of time, and then build it in for sure into next year's work plan. There might be something later this spring you want to pick up.
So I guess my takeaway from this too is we had a lot of good scenarios, talked through a bunch of things. If there's something that you need to talk about that comes up in the agenda, you're going to submit it so that when we do our agenda building, we will consider these questions regarding the topic and build the agenda from there. It's important to stick to the agenda because we want to make sure that we're all prepared for the conversation, the public is prepared for the conversation. So we're just trying to be mindful of that. So we're sticking to, so everybody understands that?
And a service that's available to you with your contract with the SBA is I can also just sit in on meetings virtually to answer questions as they come up. Not necessarily present like this and take your time, but be a resource to you if that's something that you'd like, so.
Because we're all going to run into topics.
As you're learning this.
Yeah. Great.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bethany, I have no idea how to get this off the screen, so I'm giving it back to you. Thank
So,
you.
next topic is the governance process, referring to policy 4.0. We have two policies and two motions. Mary Beth,
I'd like to make a motion to move policies C11, student freedom of expression in school-sponsored media, and, C13, students experiencing homelessness, and D6, class size to second reading.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We also, oh, second
No, sorry,
motion,
go ahead.
sorry.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Nope, I'd like to make a move. You do not want to see me make a move. No moves happening. I'd like to make a motion to authorize an article for the city elections on November 3rd, 2026 ballot that, if approved, allows for the establishment of a capital reserve fund that would be under the control and direction of the school board for the purposes of making capital improvements at Rutland City Public School sites.
Second.
So moved.
Or did you move it? Who's the
I-
first?
No, she made motion, I
I made a move, there's a
seconded.
second, yeah.
Any discussion?
Yes. Okay, so I'm looking at that policy, or I think it's a great idea, we definitely need it, but it's not asking for a specific, like the fire department is 2 or 3 cents added to the budget. What are we asking?
So all we're asking at this point is that we put it on the ballot to be able to establish the capital reserve fund. And then once approved, we'll come back to you with a recommendation for how much to put into that account.
Okay. I'm just a little bit concerned that maybe we should do it all at one time, no?
No, we would need to establish it, we need to get voter approval just to establish the fund before we can talk about what we're going to put in it.
Because once we get the voter approval to establish the fund, we decide as a board what goes into the fund.
Yeah.
That
So
doesn't go to a vote or anything to the public.
So, wait a minute.
not
So
a
this is
bond.
going to be just part of our regular budget?
It will be money that we have, that we then set aside for capital improvement fund.
Okay. So is
Money that
it
we
like
already
if you
have. We're not
add?
adding anything to the tax base or
Oh,
anything
okay.
like that, no.
So I think we need to explain that to make sure we explain that clearly to the voters, because
Indeed.
I read that and I think you're asking for more money.
Nope. we're
You're just
asking
not
for
telling
any
me how much you're
We
asking
just
for.
want,
No, we just want to, you know, I mean, you could
ability to
almost,
open the checking account.
yeah, we just want to be able to set aside money for capital improvements.
Okay.
And it goes into it protects the funds from being used in a different way. You all decide, the board decides how much to put in, and then it decides when to take it out and for what.
Okay. So that would be maybe surplus in the budget that you didn't?
Correct.
Okay. So that's all your?
Yep.
All right.
That's all.
Herb.
I think it's a great idea, too. I'm wondering, number 3 here says, protect funds from uncertainties related to possible school consolidations under Act 170. How sure are we that that would actually be a protection?
I think are we sure about anything with
Yeah.
protection and merger and consolidation right now? No.
No.
But
Just gives
I
us,
think it's better than not having any.
just gives us a better chance, right?
Right.
Has the
Especially
attorney?
because the language that we are proposing also has in it that it's to be used for Rutland City Public Schools sites.
Has the attorney reviewed that, or no?
No.
Okay.
We've used ballot language that's been used by other
Okay.
school districts and towns.
Okay.
So the motion, I guess, is still on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any discussion?
You already did that.
We already had the discussion.
Okay. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. The superintendent report is in your packet. Any questions?
Can I highlight just a couple of little
I
things?
didn't see it in
know it's
mine.
late.
Do you have it?
That went out in your packet.
It did go.
It was towards the bottom of the
Um,
pile.
Oh, okay.
One, you're all invited to our convocation on Tuesday, August 25th. The entire district will gather together at 8 o'clock at the high school. If you're going to come, please let us know so that way we can just plan. Brunch will be offered. We'll have a keynote speaker. We'll recognize staff. It will be a celebration. And then we'll have brunch together before people head back to their buildings. Number of community partnerships have happened over the summer months. One, we're partnering with the Rutland Recreation Department using grant funds to offer free family events on Fridays at White's Pool. Kids do crafts and swimming and games, all free of charge to our families. We also have partnered with the Flint Theater to offer what's called Playing Fields. It's a project that's a back-to-school celebration. All students and their families, community are invited. It's going to be at the intermediate and middle school field, and it is at 6 o'clock. So everyone is welcome to attend. Karen, I'll give you a copy.
Yeah, thank you. I don't have it in my packet.
That's okay. There you go. Wait, let me just make sure there's nothing else I wanted to highlight.
Okay.
That's it. There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you. We do not have an anticipated executive session, is my understanding. The next meeting will be September 8th, 6 o'clock. And I would like to welcome Herb to walk us through their self-evaluation today.
Well, that's actually what I brought up at the end of the presentation, which is that we do need to establish a schedule. I think she's right that we don't have to do it right away, but the work plan ought to say that on, I don't know, November 10th, 2027, for example, we're going to be evaluating our own following of policy 4.1 and so on. It sounds like we haven't figured out whether we want to do it the way Barstow does it, or the way DeConnick and Green did it, or maybe a third way. But we need to do it because otherwise, policy governance doesn't work. I don't know whether that's what you had in mind, though.
No. I was going to go over the questions to self-evaluate us as a group.
Oh,
Yes, that one.
the form we already had.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Well, taking them in order with
And let's just take maybe the first three.
Karen's suggestion here, was the board engaged in the meeting? My impression is yes, it was.
Thank you. Agreed. Agreed.
Did we follow the agenda? Yes, we did. Thanks to the chair.
Begrudgingly sometimes, but we did.
Did we refer any policies for items on tonight's agenda? I'm not quite sure what that wording means.
You did.
You did, and you were excellent at it.
You were the
and
policy guru tonight.
Yeah.
We're all gonna,
So-and-so.
Yeah.
So thank you, Herb, for that.
Oh, refer to any policies,
We're very
sorry, I left
prepared.
out the two, yep. Did the board focus its work toward the future of the district and achieving its ends? Certainly toward the future of the district. Achieving the ends is a little hard to establish because we haven't fleshed out our ends policy yet. That's one big task we still have in front of us. I mean, we have an ends policy, but it's just a skeleton. Did the board identify opportunities to link to its owners? Yes, and Pam just brought up some of them right then. And did any future training topics come up? Well, we did discuss that the new board members need to be trained in policy governance. I can't think of any other training topics.
I think that was it. So we get
Did
an
we
A
talk
plus
about
today.
student reps getting a little bit of training too?
Yeah, that was in one of the two different student
We
rep
could look into that.
descriptions.
There is for that.
yep,
Interesting, yeah.
yep.
A plus for everybody.
Great work.
And let's see, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We really have to say all in favor? Everybody says
Yes.
aye.
Aye.